take the hint. Magic. Sorry, I got it. Yep. Good morning, Beacon.
Good morning.
Welcome to Beacon here in Summit, New Jersey, a Unitarian Universalist congregation seated on the ancestral lands of the Lenni Lenape Native Americans. My name is Meg Utterback. My pronouns are she, her. And I want to welcome you today, whether you're in person on the top floor, down here in the congregation on the first floor, if you're online, virtually. If you are online, please introduce yourself in the chat so we can get to know you. And we're very happy to have you, whether you're a newcomer or you've been coming for 5,000 times. Welcome. And you probably have been here 5,000 times.
That just makes me feel really old.
So I want to welcome you and embrace the day with you today. I want to talk a little bit about my experience at Beacon and my naivete and stupidity. So, and that comes very natural to me. Back in, I think it was June or July of last year, I came to a few services, and then as one does, I joined Reverend Robin on the second floor in the library to learn about what is Unitarian Universalism and what is Beacon. And so as we went through this process and she explained it, there was a lot of, I don't want to say ambiguity, but she would say, okay, well, we're not theist, but we're not non-theist. And then she would say, I said, well, are you political? And she said, no, we're consciously not political. And then others asked a series of questions. And as we went through this process, it became clear that in a way, Beacon was all things to all people, right? It was what you needed when you needed it, was the message I got, which was a good message, but I walked away very disturbed. And I was, which Emily's laughing because she probably figures I am frequently disturbed by things, but I walked away disturbed because I thought, how do you do this? How do you come up with an hour of content every Sunday that everybody engages in when everybody's so diverse and you can't offend anybody? And not only can you not offend people, but you want to connect them. And I thought, that's just really not possible. Now, I had spent a year in London and sat in silent meeting with the Quakers for a year. And it's odd that somebody who sits in silent meeting would come here and say, I'm worried about content, right? But I did. And sort of to add insult to injury, when I left the meeting, I went out to my car, I turned on the radio, and that song was on, the old song, you don't drink, you don't smoke, what do you do? And it felt like that was sort of apropos to the experience I had just had. So fast forward 8 months later, and here I stand talking to you. And what have I discovered, Beacon? I have learned that we have so much to talk about. Every Sunday, we actually don't, we spend an hour, but we just scratch the surface of all that there is to say. And so I spend my time sitting with you, connected, listening and learning together. And I invite us today to do that. So welcome, David Gordon. Please light the chalice for us.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. That's a tough act to follow.
Oh, can I take one last thing?
Please.
Of course, if you're new or you just want to chat and have coffee with me, I'll be right down here after.
Thank you, Meg. Well, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
And I am David Gordon. My pronouns are he and him. And I just want to share a reading for the chalice lighting this morning. It's entitled Sacred Unknowing. It's from the Reverend Amy Carol Webb, who serves the River of Grass UU congregation in Broward County, Florida. We light this flame for the art of sacred unknowing. Humbled by all that we cannot fathom in this time, we come into the presence of what we do know, perhaps the only thing we can ever know, that love is now and forever the only answer to everything and everyone in every moment.
Good morning. My name is Misa Iwama. I'm the Director of Music Ministry, and I'm here today with John O'Neill, pianist, and also up here in our music loft, delighted to have Melanie Davis, Joelle Boschner, and Dennis Mannion. They will be singing later on in the service, Hold On, Keep Your Eye on the Prize. But we are going to start this morning by singing hymn 1001 in the Teal hymnal. This has a refrain that says, listen more often to things than to beings. So even though there's two verses, you might want to just come sing all the verses, or you might just want to sing the refrain. But we'll begin this morning with that thought. Bum bum ba bum 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 ba bum 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 ba bum 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 ba bum bum bum. Listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead are not under the earth. They are in the rustling trees. They are in the groaning woods. They are in the crying grass. They are in the moaning rocks. The dead are not under the earth. So listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead have a pact with the living. They are in the woman's breast. They are in the wailing child. They are with us in our homes. They are with us in this crowd. The dead have a pact with the living. So listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name's Kathy Menendez, and I'm a member of the chaplain team here at Beacon. Chaplains extend the spiritual care of our community with calls and visits. We also lead the community candle lighting. Together, we light candles of joy, sorrow, and gratitude. This morning, we light a candle of joy and celebration for all people who are turning 90 today. We know who you are, Marilyn Falls. A candle of sorrow for the people of East Palestine, Ohio, dealing with the toxic environmental effects of a train derailment. A candle of solidarity for the people of Ukraine as they mark 1 full year of war and suffering. We light a candle of gratitude for our leaders, for our board members who gathered in retreat this weekend, for those who are considering leading our faith, and for those ancestors who serve this congregation faithfully. For this and for so much more, we invite you now to come forward and light a candle here in our sanctuary, at home, or wherever you may be.
Would you please join in singing hymn 1031, Filled with Loving Kindness? May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well.
I'm Jean Crichton, and I have been a member of the Afternoon Music Board for about 20 years, just about as long as I've been a member here. But really, isn't it great to be back together again in this sanctuary? Isn't it fantastic? To see old and new friends, to reflect on the energy and peace of our beloved space. With Helen Kerr's wonderful mural in front of us, we can relax and listen to the service and to the music. Music has always been an important part of the religious life of Beacon. We almost take it for granted that we can count on hearing the beauty of Misa's voice and the wonderful sound of our Steinway piano played by John or Vicky. Thank you, John. And thank you, Misa. And last week, we got to hear solos by our own Rosina Hill-Jackson and improvisations by celebrated jazz pianist Cyrus Chestnut. Incredible. Afternoon Music was founded in 1982 as Beacon's classical music series, to which we've added an annual jazz concert. In the 41 years since, we have continued to present amazing concerts at reasonable prices with outstanding classical and jazz artists in our beautiful jewel box of a hall. Musicians love to play here in this intimate space. The acoustics are superb, and audiences are invited to meet and greet the performers at a wonderful reception afterwards. And I said in last service, and I have some cookies that I always bake, and so then people were saying, oh yes, it's the cookie person. Okay, that and other things. On March 12th, 2 weeks from today, at 3 p.m., Afternoon Music presents the first of its concerts for the 2023 season, a string quartet program led by Eric Wyrick, who's the concertmaster of the New Jersey Symphony. I'll be in the lobby today selling tickets after the service. You can also buy tickets online, and the recitals are free for students. Come and join us. You may think you don't like classical music, but you might surprise yourself when you settle in and join our musical community on March 12th. So now I'll turn the mic over to Misa, who's our artistic director.
Thank you, Jean. And I would say that anyone who has had Jean Crichton's cookies will think that that alone is worth the price of admission.
You can buy them at Spring Forward.
Or have them with a concert the next day.
True, true.
So the concert on March 12th, one of the pieces is going to be by Florence Price, who was the first Black female composer to have a symphony performed by a major American orchestra. She was friends with contralto Marian Anderson and writer Langston Hughes. There's also going to be a piece by Dvorak, who was from what is now the Czech Republic. And at the time, he was living in Iowa. So it's the American quartet influenced by folk music. And the magic of this concert is that you don't have to drive to the NJPAC or to New York City to hear the concertmaster of the New Jersey Symphony Orchestra, because he's going to be here to play the concert right in our sanctuary. And I would say that the amazing magic of a live concert is that you will hear the music just as Florence Price heard it first performed when she composed this piece. And the other thing is say that Afternoon Music is now a supporting organization of Beacon, which means that we are, just like Beacon Hope and Equity, part of Beacon's mission. And that mission includes feeding the human spirit and healing the world. And I do think that music does that. I hope that you will join us on March 12th and on May 7th for our concerts, to be part of the community that really values the beauty and the worth and the meaning of music.
Thank you, Jean and Misa. And so now for the ministries of our congregation, including our amazing music ministries, we give our offering. It will be gratefully given and received.
Paul and Silas bound in jail had no money
on the prize. Hold on, hold on. Paul and Silas thought they was lost. Dungeon shook and the chains come off. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Freedom's name is mighty sweet, and soon we're gonna meet. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on. I got my hand on the gospel plow. Won't take nothing for my journey now. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on.
The only chain that a man can stand is that chain of hand on hand. And keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on.
Hold on.
Gonna go that big red hound. Carry the love from town to town. And keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on.
Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Now the only thing I did was wrong, staying in the wilderness too long. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on. The only thing that we did was right, was the day that we started to fight. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. The only thing we did was right, was the day that we started to fight. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, everyone. Hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on.
Good morning, Beacon. Good morning. My name is Wim Sweldens, and I am your worship associate today. I identify as male, and we now have a brief moment of meditation. Now, before we do that, I have a small story I want to share about how I got to this meditation. And the story sort of starts 10 days ago, last week, Thursday, when I got an email from Emilie, and she's like, Wim, you're the worship associate, I want you to do the meditation. And this was a little strange, because usually I never get mails 10 days before a service. I usually get them like 10 hours before the service. And as some of you know, I'm not very good at always reading my mails or getting back to people, but this was so unusual that I better pay attention to this. This has got to be important. So Emilie's mail says, Wim, I want you to do the meditation. I'm going to send you the text. Just read the text. I'm like, oh, that's got to be easy. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? I can just ignore this for 10 days and it'll be fine. So then late last night, about 10 hours ago, I checked my mail again. There were a few more emails from Emily that I'd ignored. And one of them was like, well, here is the actual text for you to read. I'm like, okay, easy enough. And the text is actually a beautiful poem that was written. It's actually a UU variant of the famous Psalm 23 from the Bible, written and delivered at the UUA General Assembly in 2017. And it's absolutely beautiful. I'm like, okay, I can read that. I mean, so I checked some of the other emails, and she's like, well, oh, by the way, Wim, you're going to be doing your meditation right after this song about hold on and see if you can maybe take some elements of that song and put it in the meditation. I'm like, oh, boy. So now I'm like getting worried a little bit. I got Psalm 23, and I looked it up, and it's beautiful King James Bible English, half the words I don't really understand. There's the UUA version of it, which is also absolutely beautiful. There is the Hold On, Eye on the Prize song we just sang, and now I got to turn this into a meditation, and I don't know what to do. So what do you do when you're in a situation where you're in a time crunch and you have to deliver a writing? What do you do? Panic. That was definitely one thing I did. So I panicked, and then what else? Where do you get help when you need help? In the old days, you would use Google, you know? But we're in a new world now. What do you use these days? ChatGPT. I'm like, oh. So I log on to ChatGPT, and I've learned a little bit how to work with it, and you have to really give it a lot of context. So I'm like, hello, I'm a little bit of a time crunch. I'm the worship associate tomorrow morning for a Unitarian service, and the minister told me this, and here's Psalm 23, and here's the UUA version, and here's the song we just sang. Can you sort of make this into a meditation reading? And boom, there's the answer. And it actually looks okay. It's actually not bad at all. I'm like, okay, but I'm like, I really would like to have a little bit more of Psalm 23 in there. Could you redo it? I'm like, sure enough. And a new version comes out, and it's actually better. I'm like, wow, this is really good. I'm like, I need a little bit more of the hold on theme in there. Could you just put a little bit more hold on? Sure enough, a new version comes out, and it's really good. And so we go back and forth a few more times. Up. And after like 3 or 4 iterations, let's see where we are, I finally have something, and it's really good. It's beautifully written, it's eloquent, it's got all the elements I wanted in it, and I'm like, I can go to bed, and I'm done. I'm going to read this tomorrow. I'm not going to tell anybody. This will be fine. So then this morning I woke up, and I couldn't read it. It was too perfect. So I wrote something, just short, just from scratch. It's not beautifully written. It's not super eloquent. But I wrote it from the heart, and I will try to read it from the soul. So let's get ready for a brief meditation moment. Take a comfortable but firm position in your chair. Maybe uncross your legs. Feel your feet touching the floor. Feel your chair supporting your body. If you want to, close your eyes. Try to bring your full awareness, your attention to this place right here and to this moment right here. And I will read it now. Love is the price. Love is the price I shall not want. Love tells me to keep my eyes on the prize and not want. Love tells me to hold on and not want. Love tells me to lie down in green pasture. It lays beside me and tells me to not want. Love restores my soul, makes me a better person, and leads me in the path of righteousness. And when I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for love will walk with me, comfort me, tell me to hold on and not want. Love sets a table for me with my enemies and holds me and tells me to hold on. I will dwell in love for the remaining days of my life and not want. Amen.
Wim, thank you. And know that your heart did not lead you astray. And I have a decidedly different memory of those emails. February. Did you all miss it? Whoosh. I did. Way back at the beginning of February, like 2 days ago, we heard a news report that a candy company was changing the messages on the candy hearts for Valentine's Day. Right? It took me back to my college days. My roommates at the time, her name was June, and she came back to our room with a bag of candy hearts, pouring them into 2 bowls, putting one on my desk and one on her desk, and she said, "Let's play a game, okay? I'll, ask you a question, and you have to answer it using the candy hearts." Right? So it went something like this. We'd be quietly studying, and suddenly she would say, "What did you get for question number 3?" And I would pick up a candy heart and say, "Hubba hubba." Right? And if it worked, then you got to eat the candy heart. If not, you didn't. "Are you going to the dining hall tonight for dinner?" "Love you." This was the thing, back and forth. The hearts had all of the normal responses that we often see if you've eaten candy hearts over the years. But in this bag, I don't know where she got it, there was one response that intrigued me. It said, "No." Period. No. And I just thought, I wonder what was happening in that marketing room when they came up with those conversation hearts. What is going on? And I have to say, as a female identified person on a college campus, I needed that no heart. And I needed to be able to say it, and I needed it to be respected. Interestingly, there was not a yes heart. Again, what's going on in the marketing room? Interesting. So I met June on my first day of college. At that time, she lived across the hall from me, and a small group of us from our dorm, the people that you first meet, from our dorm, all ate meals together in the dining hall, especially those first few weeks. And now, I will say that for those of us who make that transition from high school into whatever the next phase of your life is, whether that's college or whether that's a service experience or work, it can be a tricky one. Now, some of us move often enough that we really learn how to build community well. And others of us grow up in 1 or 2 or 3 spaces, and the community is formed for us as we're growing up. And so therefore, when we make this huge transition, we kind of don't know how to do it. It's been built for us, and it's been built over time, and we have these deep friendships that we're now really missing, and we don't know how to do it. It's not unlike retirement or other transitions, right? You've got to rebuild your community. Where do you go to find community? Well, within the first few weeks, my college held all sorts of events, helping us connect to other students and create a real sense of belonging. At dinner one night, our dorm group was asking one another if we were going to go to the Greek life orientation event that was happening later. After all, we had all gone to the fair for college organizations, for intramural sports, for campus jobs. We had gone to all of those. And people went back and forth trying to decide. And that's when June, a person that I had almost immediately begun to love, said, "I'm not going. I'm not buying my friends." A hush fell over the table. The conversation on Greek life ended almost immediately. I think all of us were wondering and deciding for ourselves in that moment, is that what Greek life is? Are we buying our friends? Both June and I were at college on scholarships, not to mention taking out college loans. We were at a very expensive liberal arts school. Registration day, when we picked out our classes, was always a day of hell because some part of the university got it wrong and they suddenly would say, you don't have enough money for classes every single term. It would get resolved by the end of the day, but it was not an easy day. Money was difficult, every penny designated, and paying additional money to have a community was not in our budgets. The priority was on education. June's frame of Greek life as an avenue for buying friends allowed us to blame the system rather than feel excluded because we didn't have enough. It was a good defense mechanism. I continued to have a sour taste in my mouth about Greek life, not to mention any organization where there was a seeming membership fee or where it felt like you were buying community. That is until one day when many, many years later, when one of our youth alumni, somebody who had graduated from Beacon, came into my office on his Thanksgiving break from his freshman year at college. He had been an excellent co-leader the year prior in our youth group, leading our youth group through a tumultuous transition where our youth group went from a size of 12 people to 40 people. And he had done it amazingly. I'll never forget that day because I asked him how it was going. And he said with absolute pride that he had joined a fraternity. And y'all, what came out of my mouth was, "Oh no, you're buying your friends." Like, you know when you want like that lever of like, just keep it in. I didn't say it. I mean, it was awful. And the smile evaporated from his face and I felt terrible. And then I'll never forget what he said next, which was, "Emily, you are never going to find a community that is free. Any community that is worth being a part of is worth giving to. And that includes money." And then he said, "Do you know who I learned that from?" Okay. Ministers aren't perfect. I guess I had emphasized repeatedly to our youth that we give to what we love. We show up, we get our hands dirty, we give what we have to give. And now here he was, teaching me to believe my own words. I apologized to him and asked him to tell me what he loved about his fraternity. And he told me. He later said to me, "What I learned is that you have to look for a community that is guided by a purpose close to your heart." It reminds me of that Brandi Carlile song. It came on my Spotify yesterday. "Wherever is your heart, I'll call home." As we are searching for community in this age of isolation, I think it's important to remember those words, "Wherever is your heart, I'll call home." And I wonder if maybe to remember this, we need to say it out loud several times. So throughout this time together, I'm going to say, wherever is your heart, and I want you to call back, we'll find home. Are you ready? Let's just practice. You know, you're getting pretty good at this, but who knows? Wherever is your heart, we'll find home. Wherever is your heart, we'll find home. See, you're so good. Where are our hearts, beloved? Is it possible that our hearts will lead us to belonging, to community, to a sense of home? Casper ter Kuile and Angie Thurston published a paper called How We Gather, telling stories of people who are building communities that function like religious communities, churches, synagogues, temples, how they once functioned, or still do. But these are not religious institutions. And so Casper and Angie, asked a whole number of people, where do you find community? And they heard one phrase over and over again: CrossFit is my church. Some of you know, but there's a little bit of wrangling, like, what's CrossFit? Most of you know, but CrossFit is it's a fitness center, essentially, right? People show up to get physically healthier. That is the purpose. But they stay for the deeply engaged and committed community. As one person told Angie and Casper, CrossFit is family, laughter, love, and community. I can't imagine my life without the people I've met through CrossFit. And yes, they pay for that community. Wherever is your heart, will find home. Casper and Angie also discovered an organization called Artisans Asylum, a maker space in Massachusetts. Do you all know what a maker space is? Yeah, some maybe. Well, it's 13,000 square feet of space with studios and project areas and workstations that people rent out in order to create art, to learn new skills, to grow businesses. They become entrepreneurs. On the surface, it is a business. Casper and Angie invite us to look deeper. They say the creative spirit that runs through the space is embodied in the generosity of its members. Individuals don't just come to the Artisans Asylum just to create their own art and not get involved in anyone else's life. Instead, they build a collective community that works together to help new and longtime artisans reach for what is asked to be created. The world asks for creations, and they help one another get there. They become mentors to one another. They teach new skills. They encourage people to try new things. You get to learn how to weld. Doesn't that sound awesome? I mean, just the mask, right? On Thanksgiving, the whole community gathers for a giant potluck they call Maker's Giving, with artistic creations covering the space and the tables right next to homemade dishes. Because the space is open 24/7, the makers who are housing insecure find respite at the Artisans Asylum. And the larger community, having witnessed their fellow members having housing insecurity, they have become passionate about advocating for better public housing. On the surface, it's a business, one that its members invest in. They invest in it by showing up, by getting their hands dirty, and giving what they can. In doing so, they've created community. Wherever is your heart, will find home. Kim Samuel is an activist and educator who had the honor of meeting Nelson Mandela at a small dinner in 2002. She tells the story of meeting him in her book, On Belonging, Finding Connection in an Age of Isolation. As they gathered around the table, can you imagine gathering around a small table with Nelson Mandela? A friend asked Kim about her father. Her father had recently suffered a brain injury and was experiencing isolation, suffering from it in his new nursing home. And so she was explaining how she was feeling about it when she noticed that Mandela was listening to her and listening intently. She turned to him and said, "Of course, you would know all about isolation from living on Robben's Island." She had actually visited the prison off the Western Cape of South Africa and gone into the cell where he had lived for almost 3 decades, often undergoing solitary confinement. His reply surprised her. No, I have never been isolated. On Robben Island, we were all brothers working together with a common purpose. I was never alone. This was a revelation. You can be physically isolated, yet having a purpose creates real experiences of belonging and connection. Each day, Kim Samuel writes, Mandela and his brothers served the cause of his people's freedom. Together, they built a powerful sense of solidarity and belonging that endured the harsh conditions of prison. Wherever your heart is, will find home. We often think that when you create a sense of belonging, you need people and places. We forget about purpose. In her poem, The Low Road, March Piercy speaks about the power of people grounded in purpose. She writes, alone, you can fight, but they roll over you. But two people fighting back to back can cut through a mob. Two people can keep each other sane, can give support, conviction, love, massage, hope, sex. Three people are a delegation, a committee, a wedge. With four people, you can play bridge. And you can start an organization. With six, you can rent a whole house, eat pie for dinner, and have no seconds. You can even hold a fundraising party. A dozen makes a demonstration, 100 fill a hall, 1,000 have solidarity and your own newspaper, 10,000 power and your own paper, 100,000 your own media, 10 million your own country. She says a community starts with just two, back to back, guided by a shared sense of purpose, intention, vision, principle, promise. This came up in our common read discussion less than 2 weeks ago on the book Mistakes and Miracles. If you missed it, there are two more, March 16th and I believe April 20th. We were reading the stories of other congregations, and doing so begs the question, well, what stories of mistakes and miracles would we tell here at Beacon? And that's when the stories, for there is not just one story, but many stories, came up about changing our name. Now, I know for a lot of new people, you might hear about how we changed our name, and I've heard from folks that are like, you all talk about this. I don't get it. What's the deal? On the surface, it really is no big deal. We changed our name. We changed our name 5 times. We started off being the Unitarian Church in Summit, then we were All Souls, then we were Community Church, then we went back to the Unitarian Church in Summit, and now we are Beacon. Looking deeper, however, you discover that each of those changes told a story about who we were in that moment and what mattered to us. Together, that Thursday night, we retold parts of those stories from those of us who remembered it or stories were passed down to us. In the late 1990s, a group of members came forward with a common purpose: to change our name again. The word church was difficult, and they felt it falsely represented us. They also wanted to add the word universalist. Many of the members of that organizing group were raised in Jewish households. Others had harmful experiences in Christianity, and still others felt more closely aligned with our universalist theologies and tradition and felt that universalism as the poorer denomination often got invisibilized. I've just made up a new word there. So the vote failed not once, but twice. The second vote occurred at the end of my first year and Tuli's second year at Beacon in 2006. Both times our congregation was pretty evenly split and the vote was close. It was devastating to the organizing groups, many of whom have come from marginalized communities, because it felt like a rejection. As one person said to me about the first vote, there were bodies in the aisles. One of our newer members, present at the Common Read discussion, asked, well, so how did we end up changing our name to Beacon? Was there a third vote? Yes. And that made me think, what was the game changer for that vote. By 2017, it was our mission statement, I think. A mission statement that we had created together as a community and voted upon, not without some wrangling, I want to just name, voted upon in the late 2000s. I will never forget after we voted it in, the day that Marty Rothfelder approached me, probably like 2015, 2016, and said, "Emilie, it's time to reconsider our name." And I was like, oh God, no. We were in a time of great transition. We had had 2 ministers who had gone on. This was not the time to have bodies in the aisles, right? This was a time of coming together, not let's talk about our name. And I was shocked that it was Marty who was coming forward because he had been the president of the board for the second vote, which had failed. I actually remember him crying when it happened. And so I was like, "Marty, why are you coming and saying this to me?" And he said, "Emilie, our name isn't radically inclusive. It's not even inclusive." Okay. In 2017, it wasn't one minority group grounded in a sense of purpose. We were now a congregation living out our mission to be radically inclusive, to feed the human spirit and heal the world. And voices on the margins of our community were asking to center their voices in order to listen to our mission. Is this a mission that we're just aspiring to, or is it one that we're going to live into? Wherever is your heart will find home. Wherever is your heart, there you are. Which leads us to the second factor we forget about when thinking about how community is built: power. People, place, purpose, power. Belonging, writes Kim Samuel, is also found in our capacity to participate meaningfully in the decision-making structures of the broader whole. Our agency and ability to collectively determine our shared future, it's all bound up in this dimension of belonging. And I want to be honest with you, power is a tough one for us. We as a community don't like to think we have power. We like to think that we're just all equal and we're all on the same line. And that denies the fact that power exists in the system, and when we don't look at it, we end up using power to harm in ways that are not in line with our mission. This is something that our board of trustees, who was in retreat yesterday, is taking seriously. Over the last several years, our leaders have really begun to lean into these 2 dimensions of belonging: purpose and power. We've probably gotten it wrong more than we've gotten it right. Nevertheless, we are learning and repairing, and becoming more grounded and more committed with each step we take. After all, the Common Read book is called Mistakes and Miracles, which leads me to our Spring Forward event. It is drawing near. It's on March 11th, on the night that clocks spring forward. I don't know if you would put that together, but March 11th is that day, and that's when we're having the event. And I just want to put a plug in right now. I am preaching on March 12th, so we expect you to be here March 11th, and I expect you to be here on March 12th. Please don't have me be alone in this room by myself. I experienced too much of that in the pandemic. As all of you hopefully know by now, it is an event where we gather to bid on and purchase goods and dinners, services and getaways that we as a community have donated. It's also Beacon's one and only fundraiser outside of members' financial commitments and pledges, and its goal is to raise $35,000 to go to our operating budget. Now, as I say this to you, I can't help but hear the words of my college roommate: "I'm not buying friends." Partly because I've heard some of you in this room have that same response when it comes to the Spring Forward event, or as we used to call it, the services auction. Taken alone, it is a fundraiser with the goal of raising money, and a lot of it. As the bidding rises each year, many of us, including myself, are priced out. which means that for those of us who are priced out, we miss out on a lot of fun community events. It can feel exclusive, like the only people who have access to our community are the ones with money. If this has been your experience of the event, I want to say to you that I am sorry. It always comes at that moment. That's when they call. You're fine. But I do mean it. I am sorry. That was not the intention, but it was the impact. And that's not who we are or want to be. And so we repair. What has opened my heart are the leaders who are leaning into these two dimensions of belonging, purpose and power. They are embodying the spirit of that youth alumni all those years ago who said to me, what I learned is that you have to look for a community that is guided by purpose close to your heart. Leaders like Bettina and Stacy, who are our co-leaders this year, Chris and Laura last year, Meg and Karen in years past, all of whom are volunteers with full-time jobs and family commitments who show up to lead this almost other full-time job leading the Spring Forward event because they believe in Beacon's mission and they know that without this fundraiser, we can't fund our mission to the full extent. And it's the ministries that they want to fund, like worship and music, children and youth, chaplains and social justice ministries, just to name a few. It funds our staff who lead and support our ministries they want to invest in, ensuring that our staff have fair wages and health care. They've aligned that mission with our covenant, centering love in this event, asking, can we create, if we have to raise money, can we create an event that leads us deeper into relationships, that teaches new skills like how to repair your bicycle? Can we give people powerful experiences, ones that strengthen our community, that allows us to offer gifts and remember that we have gifts to give? Can we create a fundraiser like that? That purpose, they continue to tell me, is worth the effort. And beloveds, I want to assure you that they haven't forgotten about power. Each year, the leaders take the end of Marge Piercy's poem seriously when she says, it starts when you say we, and you know who you mean. And each day, you mean one more. Bettina and Stacy have been striving to create an event this year that allows all of us an experience of belonging, that gives all of us the capacity to contribute to our shared mission. That's why when we first changed the name of the event, we called it Spring Forward Together. And I just want you to know about 4 highlights. All right, this will sound a little bit more like an announcement, but it's important that you know it. The evening itself is meant to be a fun night out, whether you bid on anything or not. Come enjoy dinner together, children's programming if you've got kids, and there'll be a concert right here in our sanctuary before the live bidding even begins. We have more and more fixed price events. We have been working with members to bring them together to offer events that are one price and one price only and within budget. Things like a chili cook-off, ice cream social, a musical cabaret. We also, this year, have a raffle. A $5 ticket can now win you a spot or 2 at the pricier events at the live auction, including purchasing this sermon, which David did last year. So if you hate this sermon, no, come talk to me. Finally, your gift and your participation to Spring Forward might not come in the form of money at all, or it might not even be a donation. It takes over 50 volunteers to make the Spring Forward event happen. And you could volunteer your time to be a part of the sense of camaraderie of that evening. Marty Rothfelder, the same guy who said we need to change our name, has never bid on anything at Spring Forward. Instead, he runs our children's program, making sure that our kids have magic tricks and face painting and free pizza and homemade ice cream. There are so many ways that you can make this a part of who we are. Now, this is a start, and we'll never be finished, because each year we're determined to know who the we is, and each day and each year we will include one more. After all, wherever is our heart, let this be the ground of our belonging. Amen.
Amen. Our closing hymn is number 1028. And as you stand in body or spirit and turn to that page, just want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for watching online. Thanks to our AV team of Irvin and Will who help us reach you and reach the whole world. And we've had so many other people who are involved. There's board greeters, there's the welcome team, there's the chat moderator, and we're just all doing this together. So as we finish up, I'm going to join your voice in singing Fire of Commitment.
From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
We now get ready for our benediction. If you want, you can take your hand and put it on your heart, but if you want to, you can reach out and actually touch each other.
Sorry, my hands are cold. As we go out into this world, go out to live our lives, may we carry this flame, this fire of commitment to hold what is in our hearts and not be afraid to take it out into the world, to teach people how to live from their hearts
and to find home. Amen.